You've probably seen one of these before. It's got 2 wheels and it rides off-road fast. 2-stroke or 4-stroke, you typically see them tearing around motocross tracks. 250, 300, or 450, you might have seen them flying across Mexico's California Peninsula in races like the Baja 1000. But I'll bet you've never seen them raced in a place like this. Our race course today, the Iron Giant. 500-year-old iron mine deep in the Alps of Austria. The sport, Hard Enduro, basically a 2-wheeled, one-way ticket towards suffering and frustration. The race? Well, this is Hare Scramble, and you're watching the Red Bull Signature Series. Hey everybody, Sal Masekela here, your host of the Red Bull Signature Series, and allow me to welcome you to Eisenerz, which literally means iron ore in Austrian. Now, ever since the Middle Ages, man has carved, drilled, and blasted apart the mountain, but for one weekend every year, the mountain has the chance to exact revenge. This is the Erzbergrodeo, 4 days of enduro competitions that culminate in the Red Bull Hare Scramble. The 21st edition of Hare Scramble is about to start, so we're going to check in with Lee Diffie and the legend, Ricky Johnson.
Sal, thanks so much. When there are 500 competitors on the line, Ricky, we've got the reigning champion back and a 5-time winner. It's hard not to be excited.
When you got Taddy and also Johnny Walker going after each other, one in the past has dominated the event, and Johnny currently has been dominating it, but they have never raced each other here at Erzberg.
One of the big differences in 2015 is the temperature. It is significantly hotter than it was last year, and no rain. This is just going to add to the grueling torture test that is Red Bull Hare Scramble. You heard Ricky talk about Johnny Walker and Taddy Blazusiak. With more on this amazing matchup, here's Tina Dixon.
Thanks, guys. You know, anyone who is starting on that front row has a legitimate chance of winning here at Hare Scramble. But if you're going to make a bet, the 2 riders to put your money on would be Great Britain's Johnny Walker and Poland's Taddy Blazusiak. Why? Well, let's take a look at their resume. Starting in 2007, Taddy went on to win this event 5 consecutive times. He's the only rider to have ever done that. But Johnny Walker already has 2 of these trophies and is the current defending champion. But since Taddy raced here last, he has not been sitting quiet. In fact, he went over to the States and has 5 Enduro Cross Championship wins. But Johnny Walker, he has proven himself and is now the undisputed king of Hard Enduro. Now, the major contrast between these riders ends when you look at the bikes. Both are riding identically prepared KTM 300 EXCs. The major difference is the choice in tires and gearboxes. But guys, keep in mind, this is the first time they are racing against each other here at Hare Scramble.
And that's what takes the 2015 edition of Hare Scramble up to another level.
We saw a 5-speed and a 6-speed. How will that change? A 6-speed closer ratio might help you in the woods, but the start, it's go for broke.
The first wave of 50 are ready to start, and a truly unique way of starting with a member of the Flying Bulls aerobatics team flying through the valley, through the mine, and here we go.
Into the first turn, Johnny Walker gets a great start, but Taddy shoots up the left side.
On board with Alfredo Gomez. This young Spaniard is an exciting rider. He's in the mix in this uphill. The first uphill, this is just a grueling test right from the get-go.
We see Johnny Walker with a huge lead and a couple riders going down there. A couple different strategies. One, go for the whole shot or sit back and take a clean run up that hill. But right now we see Johnny Walker with clean air.
Shades of 2014 here with Johnny Walker getting off to an amazing start. Hard Enduro may be about the bike handling over insanely technical terrain, but the off-road racer from Wales has transformed it over the past 3 years into a game of speed as well. Incredible bike handling skills and not afraid to take a risk, Walker has transformed consistent podium finishes in 2014 into total Hard Enduro domination so far in 2015. Good coaching, the best team in the paddock, and a growing vault of experience makes him the odds-on favourite here today, Ricky.
I really like what Johnny's doing. He's using his body, he's saving his energy because he knows the beating that's about to take place.
One of the guys who will take the fight to him is Andreas Lettenbichler.
Lettenbichler dealing with the dust this year. We haven't had that in the past. We've had rain and mud, but now dust.
In the battle of youth versus experience, the rider everyone in the paddock calls Letty is proof positive that some things can get better with age. Now in his 40s, Letty is showing no signs of slowing down. Perhaps it's the fact that his 16-year-old son is now also racing at a professional level that has transformed Letty's mentality. Or maybe it's simply the fact that after racing in over 10 editions of this event, he's more motivated than ever to finally get a win. Let's go back on board with Letty. And Ricky, you mentioned earlier at the start you saw some riders go down. We have just learned one of those riders is the 5-time Hare Scramble winner, Taddy Blazusiak. Let's go back to the start.
We're on board with Taddy. We see Johnny Walker right next to him. Both riders getting great hole shots coming down into the first turn. But here we see Taddy move the riders out just a little bit. What you can't see is Johnny Walker is shooting up the right-hand side, and the lead is so important. And right here, shoots right in front of him and takes out Taddy's front wheel. I don't think it was intentional, but definitely wanted the whole shot, and Taddy rolls all the way to the bottom.
Oh boy, this is huge. With more on it, here's Tina.
Well, guys, as you just saw, that start was unbelievably tight, and you can see behind me the bike. That is Taddy Blazusiak's bike. Going up the hill, he fell off, a cloud of dust. We will keep you posted as to what exactly happened, but I did see Taddy walk away with a very disappointed look on his face, and right now the second line is about to go.
Starting in waves of 50, and this is tough. You saw the big guns do it earlier. Now it's the second wave. Remember, 500 competitors in total.
Sitting on the second line, I could see the top pros have all those problems on the hills. I might just hang back and wait for all the dust to clear. As you can see, these riders, they can't see the hill, they can't see the rock, and they can't see the other riders. So sometimes the old bull that walks down could win this race.
Well, several of them taking your advice, RJ. They're going really wide to the right. Remember, this is one of the toughest tests, and it's right at the beginning. Now, here's one of the emerging stars of Hard Enduro, the young German rider, Philipp Scholes.
Philipp is currently second, and he's had great starts in the past lead, but he never seems to pull it together at the end. A dream day would be to finish the Iron Giant on the podium.
He's chasing this man, our current leader. Another rider who is just fabulous at starts. This is, as we mentioned earlier, mirroring 2014. The 2-time Hare Scramble champ and frontman, Johnny Walker. We are going to put the spotlight on Canadian rider Ryan Larue today. You can see him there with the black helmet, blue goggles aboard the Husqvarna, number 174. Not everybody, RJ, can be a Johnny Walker. So we want to profile this guy just to show how difficult this challenge is.
Lee, they start dead engine, and we see Ryan gets a good jump, and he's on the inside, but down he goes, and he gets right back up. So this Canadian maybe plays a little hockey. He's used to getting checked and playing on. But here we see him, he shoots right to the middle where he can't see the ground, he can't see the other riders, and you got to remember, you want to avoid other riders, and down he goes.
Oh, this uphill is just savage.
And he's not riding the bike down the hill, he's actually sliding down with the hill. But the bike looks like it's in good shape. Ryan's back on the bike. Now he can turn around, get himself situated, and get going.
Up ahead, here's KTM star and the reigning Hare Scramble champion, Johnny Walker, as he approaches, Ricky, the water pipe. So there's been some nice wider open sections, but this is where things start to get technical.
It starts to get technical, narrow, and also very steep climbs with very little run. So Johnny has to be very precise on his line selection. Here we see him up and over the rocks, standing, balancing the bike. But he has a big lead, but he doesn't know how big it is. So you gotta take that terminology, being chased by a tiger. How fast do you want to run? But Johnny Walker's running the perfect pace.
Time for a GoPro moment with Johnny Walker. that KTM just screaming as he completes water pipe.
I love to listen to Johnny Walker on the clutch and the throttle. A great balance between body position, throttle, and clutch to have the right amount of wheel spin to keep the RPMs up, but also not spin to lose traction.
See Johnny Walker there going through the checkpoint. Every rider must complete that. If you miss a checkpoint, it is immediate disqualification. Still in second is Philip Scholes. He too at the top of water pipe.
Lee, you might wonder why he has his right foot off climbing a hill, but if you notice, he has it up by the front wheel to give a little bit more weight to keep from looping out.
You said you wanted to see him put a full day together today. So far, so good. Here's the silent assassin, Graham Jarvis, a hare scramble champion himself back in 2013, and he will be one to be watched all day long here in Austria.
Lee, you can never count out Graham Jarvis. He's old school. He's won races all around the world. Here we see one of the youth movement, Wade Young, number 5, taking a shot at water pipe. He's one of the younger guys that is going after the old dogs.
And he can check water pipe off his list. The South African currently runs fourth. There's a real diverse group here, riders from all over the world and all backgrounds. So how do you become like Andreas Lettenbichler? Well, there's technique involved, there's experience involved, and there's a lot of skill. How do you get it done? Letty shows us in our course preview.
Every time in the rocks I use the trial technique. It's very important for us. In the forest, on the ruts, in this event, especially in Karl Steiner. First of all, I put the bike in compression, pull the clutch, and give a little bit of gas and leave the clutch out and come up with the body weight. So the bike come out of the compression, you use the fork and the rear shock, and you go up to the stone. When it works, it looks really easy, but when you be not in the right timing, too slow, it works to 90%. I know this technique from my trial routes, and it's easy for me.
It's easy for me is what he says. An average rider can't even fathom what these riders are going through, and he's doing so much with his hands, his feet, his body, motor, everything. It's unbelievable what these riders can do.
As Andreas Lettenbichler completes the water pipe through the checkpoint, and away goes Letty. What a brilliant description.
You know, he says it's easy, but it's phenomenal what these riders can do with their body. Here we see Ryan, who's stuck still at one of the major challenges. Here there's so many riders, there's so much dust, but he does the right thing this time. He waits, looks for a clear run, then takes a shot at the hill.
It's a day full of strategy. Where do you go? When do I go? And then you've got to blend in all of the skill involved to execute and pull it off, and Ryan Larue does it. This is a huge day for the Canadian. Here's Graham Jarvis's teammate, currently 6th. This is Alfredo Gomez.
Well, Lee, that word teammate is a little bit slippery right now because we saw 2 teammates in Johnny and Taddy take each other out on the start. But right now, Alfredo Gomez is chasing down Graham Jarvis because he would like to be the #1 guy on his team and also win here at Erzberg.
Terrific battle of youth and experience, isn't it? You get everything at Hare Scramble. Look at this now. Riders getting caught in this mud bog. And that's our feature rider, Ryan Larue.
Ryan takes a shot to the outside, tries to get by and stuck in the mud one more time. I have a theory that you need to know what you're going to do, not think. And right there, he took a chance, and now he's stuck in the mud. Here we see Johnny Walker down in Bathtub. Even though it's very dry this year, this is probably the slickest section. And we talked about how you have to be a multiple style rider. Here we see Johnny Walker, who does motocross quite a bit, and that's going to help him in this S-turn back and forth, the motocross style.
Pretty straightforward. The reason why it's called bathtub is it's like a giant bathtub. And you come down one side and cross the bottom where Ricky said it's quite slick. And now Johnny begins the climb up the other side. You have to have it all to be #1 in Hare Scramble, and Johnny Walker's showing us why he's the reigning champion and leads at this early stage. Now spare a thought for Ryan Larue and the others stuck in the mud.
It's all about brotherhood, Lee. It's one thing you want to beat your competitor, but also you want to have a fair playing field, so you got to help each other out.
There is a special guest at Hare Scramble this year, the modern-day Evel Knievel, Robbie Maddison.
Well, Robbie, you have accomplished some pretty impressive things in your life, but give us your thoughts when you look at the Iron Giant.
Honestly, this whole event just inspires me to ride my motorcycle again. Like it's cool to find something, another aspect of the sport that motivates you, and being here has totally motivated me this week. I'm excited to get back and start doing some hard enduro. I've never really been a massive fan of it, to be honest, but now I am. This event is insane, and I want to do it. I want to finish it.
And with your riding and the things that you have done, you seem to have had a handle on some sort of fear. Is there fear involved in this?
There's always fear when you're talking about motorcycles, so 100%. The terrain out here it's not easy, that's for sure. There's parts of this course that, I mean, with 24 stages, it's absolute brutality. And I was talking to some of the riders yesterday. They said they were looking at one of the hill climbs and they walked up it on their feet and they literally fell down. And I said, what's all the cuts from? And it was from that. And I said, and you have to ride your motorcycle up there, so it's brutal. I think it's definitely something to be fearful of.
Well, Robbie, giving us an athlete's perspective. Thanks for your time, guys. I'll send it back to you.
Tina, thanks so much. Ricky, wouldn't that be something if motorcycle icon Robbie Maddison did Hare Scramble?
Well, you know, I've watched this, and honestly, at 50 years old, I don't want to ride it, but man, I'm such a huge fan, and I would have loved to attack this in my youth. And here we watch Johnny Walker just pick this course apart, doing a phenomenal job.
And yes, the challenge of getting out of the mud continues, but Ryan LeGroux finally gets out. Here's a snapshot of who is running where. Graham Jarvis, the 2013 champ, is on the charge. Philip Scholes is next on his list. Johnny Walker is still number one. And it's easy to see why as we ride on board the GoPro View with Johnny Walker. And Ricky Johnny's entering the section called Three Kings.
The Three Kings is a lot of single track and of course a lot of climbing. And anytime you're here at Erzberg, but listen to Johnny's bike scream up this hill. As he gets to the top, you hear the motor slightly flutter. That's not a problem. That's on purpose. He's slowing down the throttle to gain traction to get up and over the top.
Three Kings is definitely one of the more technical challenges here at Hare Scramble. And yes, that is a positional change. Husqvarna's Graham Jarvis now up to second. So Johnny Walker's lead is starting to dwindle. And Philip Scholes has been relegated to third place. If riding dirt bikes up and over through nonsensical terrain has a poster boy, it's Graham Jarvis. But the only mountain Jarvis has truly struggled to conquer is here in Erzberg. His run of bad luck and disqualifications here is infamous in hard enduro circles. Yes, he has one win at the Iron Giant in addition to his dominance elsewhere, but he also has a trophy case full of Hare Scramble near misses and runner-up positions that he's looking to replace. Riding on board with Letty.
Scholes is falling back one more position. Unlike motocross and supercross where you just bang your way through, there's a little bit of sportsmanship in hard enduro.
Time now to check in with Sal Masekela back in the Red Bull Signature Series studio.
Now, you know the top riders of hard enduro are all at this race. From events like Hell's Gate, the Tough One, Romaniacs, Megawatt 111, and Sea to Sky, Red Bull Hare Scramble is regarded as the toughest dirt bike race on the planet. But outside of the professionals and their teams, the real heart of these events are the everymen. These guys come out to compete and test their endurance and fortitude against the Iron Giant. With very little chance of standing on the actual podium and really no chance of finishing, these riders leave behind their lives at home to see just how far they can fare on this, the ultimate proving ground.
It's probably the most physically, grueling sport that I've ever tried. I grew up, I had my first bike when I was 3 years old, and it's in my blood. Any available time that I can, muster up, I try to get to the gym, whether it's once the kids go to bed, and try to get as much riding. Riding is the big thing. I actually own a business. I'm just like the average guy. I got a wife, 2 kids, one's just over 2 and one's just under 1, so got a pretty busy life. Coming to this event from North America, you got to disassemble your bike. You got to get it into a crate and ship it over, put all your pieces back together. And what you're really guaranteed is 2 prologues. You might have 1,400 or 1,500 guys gunning for the Hare Scramble on Sunday. They take the top 500. It's definitely a gamble coming over. If I can, get in front of a lot of that traffic that slows you down, I really think I got a shot at finishing this. There's not too many professional sporting events out there where you can get in there and pretty much run head-to-head against #1 in the world. I think there's something inside me that drives me to push myself. Just a man and a bike, so anything can happen.
And Ricky, naturally people are focused on the finish, but as you heard Ryan saying, just to make it to the start is an accomplishment.
Top 500 out of 1,500 is a great start. Here we see some of the spectators helping them out. There are sections where they can help you and sections where they can't.
Rough start, boy, rough start. I got buried in the mud.
Yeah, getting buried in the mud was a rough start, but Ryan LeGroux soldiers on through water pipe. Now let's go up ahead. Currently in the top 3 is Wade Young, as he is right at 3 Kings.
As we talked earlier, Lee, Wade is one of the bigger riders. Here we see he's got his foot off, keeping that weight forward. That size helps you in the rocks, but it definitely hurts you on the hills.
GoPro on board with Lettenbichler. Take a listen.
Struggling back and forth with that clutch, keeping the right amount of RPM and right amount of traction. Lettenbichler is on a roll.
He is chasing Wade Young. He is not that far behind. Now it's Alfredo Gomez's turn at 3 Kings.
And here, Alfredo's one of the smaller guys, and notice how there's really no struggle because he's taken probably 30 less pounds up that hill.
To the front, and the guy who has been there ever since the beginning, and just look how narrow this section is. Johnny Walker, back into the woods, and pure single track riding here. In the mountains, Johnny Walker continues to lead, but look at the chasers. Lettenbichler, Young, and Graham Jarvis. And this is the leader, Johnny Walker, as he takes time for a quick pit stop before he attacks the machine. This is a grueling section, Ricky, and one of the added challenges, there is no outside help allowed here whatsoever.
Lee, look how steep it is, 66%. That is almost straight up and down. Johnny Walker gets some fuel, gets ready to go up the machine, and his long legs are going to help him traverse back and forth up here. They've ran this in the past, so he knows it's attainable, but it's a lot of work, and those long legs help him out a ton.
Remember earlier we saw Ryan LeGroux at water pipe, and he had a rope hooked onto the front of his bike. Help is allowed at certain sections in Hare Scramble, not this one.
Lee, from this point on, it's the rider against the hill. When you come to these sections, you cannot have the spectators help you, but the other riders can, just like we saw in Everyman Challenge, where Ryan got helped out of that mud hole.
The end of machine is near, and that'll bring an element of relief for Johnny Walker, the leader.
Well, it's going to get worse as the riders ride on it. It's going to get broken down. That hard dirt on top is going to fall away, and it's going to get deeper and deeper ruts, harder for everybody from here on back.
Graham Jarvis in second. And look at there, there's somewhat of a traffic jam now. Andreas Lettenbichler has moved up to third. We go on board with Letty. He's got by Wade Young.
I made the reference before about the different size between Lettenbichler and Jarvis, and this is the kind of section that will favor a bigger rider.
Remember the GoPro course preview earlier where Letty told us all about throttle control, varying the clutch, your balance, all of those elements coming into play now.
And one of the things that we haven't focused much on is the descents. You know, there's a lot of emphasis on how you have to climb the hills, but how you get down the hills is just as important.
These GoPro onboards really highlight the immense challenge here at Hare Scramble.
One of the theories I use in Baja is make time by not losing time.
Tina, what are your thoughts?
Guys, Johnny Walker does have that lead, but it's not a very big one. And if he wants to win this event, he needs to maintain the same pace that he has set. And he knows this from experience. If you go back to 2014, the event, tough one. He had a substantial lead. He slowed down just a little bit, and David Knight was able to catch him, and David ended up winning that event. There's still racing to be had. Anything could happen. There's some fierce competition out there, so Johnny, he's got to maintain that pace, guys.
Thanks, Tina, and after all of that rock hopping and single tracking, look at this, a nice road. It's some form of respite for Johnny Walker. Catch his breath, relax, give the body a rest as he leads the pack, but Graham Jarvis is closing in. Lettenbichler, who's moved up into the top 3, Wade Young and Alfredo Gomez make up the top 5. For now, let's send it back to Sal Masekela. Sal?
Trials riding is a specialized sport. On specifically designed ultra-lightweight bikes, it combines the skills of fine throttle, balance, and machine control over various obstacles. Now, many of the world's top hard enduro riders, like Jarvis and Walker, they come from a trials background. With the lure of speed and a wide-open course like the one here at Erzberg, it is easy to see why riders make that switch to hard enduro.
Pessimists. People going around saying stuff like, no way, can't do it. Your average hard enduro rider is basically the opposite of that. The trip towards the eternal sunshine of the hard enduro mind starts with the somewhat obscure and highly technical sport of motorcycle trials. The smaller, lighter bikes let you perfect techniques here that you'll use here.
Took a bit of adapting to the speed aspect of enduros, but I think it gives you clutch control, finding grip, looking for lines.
For the majority of the top pros here today, their origins all in trials before they made the switch.
You know, it's quite an easy crossover because you've got that balance, you've got the control when you come to the rocks and the logs and that.
Perfect the technique on a smaller bike, then take it to the big one. Once I got it down, how hard can it be? Now, you're thinking like an optimist.
It's an unbelievable symphony of skill. You've got to put it all together to be successful here at Hare Scramble, and you are looking down at Karl's Diner, one of the most treacherous sections of this course.
Well, guys, Karl's Diner has always been a treacherous section, but this year they've made it even more difficult by making the riders do that top section not just once, but twice. Double the effort, double the exhaustion. But when talking to the riders, one of the bigger concerns was this run-in. You can see behind me, a lot of them were scratching their heads, figuring out how they were going to do this. And this is just the beginning of Karl's Diner, guys.
Tina, thank you very much as we check in with our leader, Johnny Walker, beginning Karl's Diner.
Lee, this angle does not do it justice. Here you see Johnny pausing and stopping as he goes down the hills as the rock continue to roll. If you look at the upper left-hand corner of your screen, that is a flat road at the bottom, so you can see how steep this hill is.
Oh, that is a very telling view.
As Johnny starts to roll, he throws the bike to the left to make sure that he can put his left foot down. That way he can lock up his rear wheel. If you notice, the rear wheel has not moved once. He keeps that wheel locked up.
And here comes the silent assassin. Graham Jarvis has closed the gap substantially on Johnny Walker. These two guys are rivals big time, all over the world in hard enduro. And Jarvis is closing the gap.
On the right, we see Johnny Walker still battling the entry to Karl's Diner, and we see Jarvis on the left making up some time and getting a little rest before he enters that treacherous section.
Yeah, that big steep downhill is coming for Jarvis, while Johnny Walker is now in the rock garden. And all of his trials background is going to come into play here.
Both Jarvis and Walker are both phenomenal on trials bikes, but they made the transition so well to the bigger motocross style or enduro style bike, but the technology of the tire helps them through this section. It's not a motocross tire, it's a softer tire with a mousse to help them climb these rocks.
Think about, put yourself in this position. Just try and walk across this terrain. Now try and maneuver a motorcycle across it. Here's Jarvis up top left, and his rapid descent begins.
If you notice how far he puts his weight back, he's trying to keep some weight on the foot peg to put weight on the back wheel. And I always love and admire Jarvis's line. He never takes the same line as anybody else. He sees something out there that no other rider sees.
The two riders from Great Britain really are putting on quite the display. Look how far back over the seat, over the rear guard Graham Jarvis is, keeping his weight back there.
And then he takes the time to pull a stick out of the radiator. He's just so calm. This is just another day for Graham Jarvis, but notice his back wheel is constantly locked up. And as you said, Lee, his weight is so far back because he's trying to keep some weight off the front wheel and a lot of weight on the rear wheel. But as you can see, the rocks that are chasing him down, this is almost straight up and down.
I love the way you said before, you've just got to be so careful, because once momentum takes over, you're done. There's no stopping it.
You're going to be rolling down the hill like one of those rocks. It looks like he's like you see a snowboarder in an avalanche. He's in a rock avalanche right now.
And he's saying, get me to the bottom. Just get me to the bottom. I'm not worried about those rocks down there. I know my balance and my throttle control and clutch control is good. Just get me there. And I'm there. Time now to check in with Sal Masakela. Sal?
Thanks, Lee. As usual, never a dull moment at this race. So what do you guys at home think about Taddy's return to Hard Enduro? How about our everyman? Is Johnny Walker going to actually get a third title here? And what about the searing heat and dust this year as opposed to the snow and rain in previous years? Well, we got questions. You can give us answers. Stay connected. Why don't you reach out to us and the good people of Austria and get involved by following the Red Bull Signature Series on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or you can go to redbullsignatureseries.com for even more behind-the-scenes content. We want to hear from you. Plus, you can also download the Red Bull TV app to watch this show and catch up on all episodes from every season.
You're welcome.
Before you stands Erzberg, also known as the Iron Giant, the home of Hare Scramble. Let's take a look at what's happened so far on the Iron Giant 2015. President Kennedy said going to the moon was worth doing, not because it was easy, but because it was hard. The same mindset is what draws 500 riders to the start line at Erzberg. But space pales in comparison when you're revving the bike at the base of the Iron Giant. Johnny Walker. They say past performance leads to future expectations. So, how do you top not only winning Hare Scramble outright, but setting a new record for the shortest time to complete the course in 2014? By muscling past some of the top riders in the sport to take the lead at the very first hill. Taddy Blazusiak, not so lucky. After a 4-year hiatus, the king was promptly dethroned and dismounted less than 30 seconds into the race. He was lucky to walk away with only his pride injured. Jarvis, Lettenbichler, Gomez. The veterans may have been blindsided by Walker's speed in 2014, but they're even wiser this time. Walker's early lead soon started to erode. Water pipe, bathtub, machine. Walker hammered each challenge with confidence, skill and speed, but so too did his opponents. A lead which seemed to be insurmountable has been reduced to mere minutes. And you already know where we're going next, right? Karl's Diner. This bike-killing, bone-crushing rock garden has been the game changer before. Walker had one of his hardest falls here in 2012. Lettenbichler conceded the lead to Jarvis. Go Graham! And that's to say nothing of the new hidden portion of the course that none of the riders have even seen before. with plenty of opportunity to chew them up and spit them out. The Iron Giant isn't finished with these riders yet.
Obstacle after obstacle. As soon as you finish one, it puts you right into another. Here we see Lettenbichler getting a little coaching from a spectator. Now you can get help when it comes to verbal, but not physical assistance. Here we see Lettenbichler trying to make sure that gravity does not take over.
Look in the background. Here comes Alfredo Gomez closing the gap now on Letty. And Letty decides to dismount.
Letty does something a little bit different, but if you notice, he's got his left armpit on the seat and he's just walking himself, kind of skiing down the hill. Here we see Alfredo Gomez jump off the other side. And now I've never seen riders do this, but he jumps right back on because he wants to keep traction on that back wheel. 4
riders to enter Karl's Diner so far and 4 very different approaches. Let's go on board with thanks to GoPro with Gomez.
Right now, Gomez has an advantage because he can see Lettenbichler down there and he can see what is working for him and what is not. You notice he takes a line slightly to the left to try to gain an advantage.
The decision making, the strategy, and then think about the execution.
Lee, you're not just racing the course, but you're racing the other riders. And here we see Lettenbichler look over to the side, and he decides, I have to pick up some speed, because if I can enter Karl's Diner before Gomez, that's going to be a big advantage. So here he goes, skiing down the hill. If you notice, he's got his right armpit on the seat, holding the back wheel down, letting the rear wheel be completely locked up because the motor is stopped, and just using the front brake. And now Gomez decides, I like your line a little bit better.
I might try the skiing approach as well. This is survival of the fittest, the toughest, the smartest. It's a combination of everything. And however you can get down to the rock garden here at Karl's Diner, you do it. And look at what awaits. Walker and Jarvis are up ahead. And you look from Gomez at Andreas Lettenbichler.
Sometimes it's a game of seconds. Here it's a game of inches, because if you're Gomez and you're stuck behind Lettenbichler and you're able to get through Karl's Diner a little bit faster, getting in front is very, very important.
Think about that rush of coming down the hill, trying to keep it all together, and then you've got to keep composed to get through the rock garden. Now look how close we're getting for the lead. There is Johnny Walker, center of your screen. Look at top right. Here comes Graham Jarvis. To be able to make up ground through the rock garden is incredible.
But you're riding at a different pace, Lee. You have to think about saving energy and being strong and not making a mistake. Those rocks are so big, if you drop a wheel in there and tip your bike over to the side, you can blow a front wheel out, you can break forks, you can destroy your bike. But you watch Jarvis just pick his way through there. He's doing a phenomenal job.
Back at Three Kings, this is Ryan LeGroux. He got to the base of the machine last year, so he is en route to do better. That's his goal.
Here we see Ryan with that right foot forward to keep weight on the front wheel and feather in that clutch. He can check off the Three Kings.
So Gomez did get by Lettenbichler and continues the chase on his teammate Graham Jarvis. If you were to put Jarvis and Walker head-to-head through this rock garden, who's better at the rock hopping?
I would say Jarvis is better at the rock hopping, but I'm going to give the advantage to Johnny Walker because he has those long legs. If you watch him through this section, he constantly keeps one leg up, holding his balance and leaning into the rock, where Jarvis has to find the higher rocks because he's got the shorter legs. So technique, Jarvis; physical strength, Johnny Walker.
The finesse with the throttle. Maneuvering his body on the bike. And again, those long legs coming into play, RJ, as you always point out.
And some people might think, why not just sit on the back and ride? But if you notice, these rocks are 2 and 3 feet tall, so the bike is jumping up and down. If you stay attached to the seat, your body's going to bounce up and down too much. You have to use your legs as suspension, just like a skier does going down a hill.
All right, check Karl's Diner off the list for Johnny Walker. But as we've just seen, Graham Jarvis is getting closer, and for the first time today, Gomez is now in the top 3. We're here at Hare Scramble, where race organizer and event founder Karl always has something up his sleeve. He likes to throw a surprise the rider's way. This is it, Ricky. It's the new section called Downtown. And there is a new race leader. It's Graham Jarvis.
Graham Jarvis, as you can see him struggling here in downtown. You can see how wet it is. We've noticed that everywhere else is dry and dusty, but here in downtown, it's basically a stream, and no rider has ever taken a motorcycle up here. Karl has designed this just by walking it, and now the riders are seeing it for the first time. So we'll find out what happened to Johnny Walker, but our new leader, Graham Jarvis, is struggling in downtown.
Yeah, this is going to tell some of the story. Johnny Walker drops the bike.
You see he drops the bike, and we don't know if he broke a radiator or if it's just overheating. These two strokes have radiators on them just like your car, and they have a pressurized radiator cap. And what happens is, once they get so hot past the boiling point, it blows a little steam off. So we'll find out what happened there.
It was very costly time-wise for Johnny Walker, so much so that Alfredo Gomez was able to get by on his Husqvarna and move into second position outright. So Husqvarna's 1 and 2 with Graham Jarvis, Alfredo Gomez. Now in downtown, and just look at the challenge that this has thrown the riders. They have never seen this before, they haven't walked it, let alone ride it, and now trying to negotiate it. This is proving to be very difficult.
We see Graham Jarvis and Gomez working very, very hard, and now we see Johnny Walker currently in third, now approaching downtown.
Has led the entire event until just coming out of Karl's Diner in the transition between it and downtown.
Here we see the mechanic looking at him and helping him out a little bit. He's pointing to his radiator, so we don't know what the problem is, but now we see teamwork between Gomez and Jarvis.
And you hear the sound of another bike. That's Johnny Walker fast approaching. Can you believe what we're seeing? These hard enduro guys are the fiercest competitors. Now they are in solidarity as teammates, helping each other out this unseen terrain here in the Austrian Alps. And talk about steep. Have a look at the gradient on this. Johnny Walker has entered the frame, so too has Andreas Lettenbichler. The top 4 in Hare Scramble 2015, all banding together to work together and help each other. Now, we said earlier that there was no outside help allowed from machine onwards. However, you are allowed to help fellow competitors.
Yep, and these guys are working together, because it's one thing to race each other, to have your rival, to have all these different things, but to finish first, you first must finish. So these riders realize that they're not going to get to the top by themselves, that they need a little help from their brother.
A little further back on the course at machine is our feature rider today, Ryan LeGroux. This is at the 15.5 kilometer zone in, and as Ricky mentioned earlier, the gradient is 66%. Now this time last year, this is exactly where Ryan LeGroux got to, so anything further up the hill is a bonus, and if he can get through and complete the machine, that will be a wonderful morale boost. Back to downtown. And sometimes, Ricky, they say collaboration is better than competition.
You can see the riders working together so hard to get these bikes. It's a game of inches, 1 inch up, sometimes it slides 3 inches back. But if you notice, some of the riders have their helmets off, but not completely. Here we're back at the machine with Ryan, who is struggling to get up. As I said earlier, it's going to get beat up worse and worse, and you can see how soft that dirt is. It's not as good as when Johnny Walker went through the first time.
And he is making progress, just a little bit at a time. Back to downtown and some replenishments. A little Red Bull to get this top quartet through. Look at that. Not only are they helping each other, they're looking after each other.
Well, they all know how physically demanding this is and the beating that they've taken, because they're basically carrying a 250-pound motorcycle straight up a hill. They got to keep their hands out of the back wheels, out of the front wheels. You might wonder, why is he sitting on the back? To add a little bit of traction to keep that bike rolling up. If he just lets it sit without the weight on the back wheel, it's not going to get any traction. You just carrying it up all by itself.
Just look at the surrounding vegetation. It will show you how lush and how moist it is. And Andreas Lettenbichler, he is spent. He is exhausted. That is one of the best hard enduro riders in the world. And he's used up just about everything he has in his tank. The top 4 are at the top of downtown. Meanwhile, Ryan LeGroux's battle continues at Machine.
You can hear Ryan working the clutch back and forth, and it's a combination. Sometimes you sort of trials ride it and you let the wheel roll. Sometimes you got to take momentum and keep it rolling. And right now, he sees the top of the Machine. He's got a little bit of encouragement from the audience. It's going to be a great day for Ryan.
Exhausted for the top 4 would be an understatement at the top of downtown.
Are we all just going to finish together? Yeah, we all just finished together.
Yes, you heard right. The two-time and defending champ, Johnny Walker, proposing the top 4 finish together. So, downtown has come and gone. That was grueling for the lead quartet. They're through. Now, we did get a report as we see Alfredo Gomez begin this climb. We have just received a report that Wade Young bypassed downtown, so he joins this lead foursome as well.
Here we see Gomez doing one of the final climbs here on the Iron Giant, and I hate to be redundant, but that his smaller size is helping him get up some of these bigger hills.
You heard the voice of two-time and defending champion, this man, Johnny Walker, proposing the top 4 finish together. We'll actually see if that happens over the course of the next few minutes as Walker begins his climb.
You can see little short runs, but let's listen to him climb.
Oh, and he gets stuck. Uncharacteristic for Johnny Walker.
You might be thinking, why doesn't he just get off and ride it up the hill? As you can see, that is such a steep hill that it's impossible. So Johnny can't just go part way down. He looks over to the side, but he has to go all the way to the bottom to get his momentum to make it back to the top of that hill. Austria's
Largest iron ore mine. More than 2 million tons of iron ore are extracted from this place this year. Meanwhile, Andreas Lettenbichler just wants to extract every bit of power out of his KTM.
Here we see Letty get a small run, keeps it moving, the balance side to side, a little bit of dab here, a little bit of dab there, but the balance is uncanny, and Letty makes it to the top.
Paddling his way anyway. We've got confirmation on Wade Young, a follow-up on that story we told you earlier about the South African, and unfortunately, he has been disqualified. He missed checkpoint 18. You miss a checkpoint, you're out. It's a black and white rule.
But right now what Wade is doing is just riding back with his friends. I think the guys have talked. They've talked about finishing together. Normally, when we saw Johnny Walker miss that hill, that would be the end of the race. The guys would just take off. But here we see Wade Young looking to the left and realizing, I need the momentum to climb this whole hill, so he goes all the way back down to the bottom.
And here comes Johnny Walker. What a shot. What a great shot. One coming down, one going up. This is the second run on this hill for Johnny Walker. Lettenbichler and Gomez are already at the top, and our defending winner finally makes it. And there are the others waiting for him. Now it's Graham Jarvis's turn.
Graham Jarvis was the first to enter downtown, but the last to climb this last ascent. I've never seen riders wait up for each other to cross the finish line together. I've seen guys band together in the Baja 1000 to get through tough sections, but never this.
What a display from this top 4. Graham Jarvis and his Husqvarna to the top to get some water. And look at it, they're sticking together like a group. The fiercest competitors are now grouped together. And they may too wait for Wade Young, despite his disqualification. And all as one.
This is an awesome display of brotherhood, Lee. Karl could talk through an obstacle at them that they could not do individually, but they banded together, and the 4 of them are going to cross the line together.
Power in numbers, and certainly in this event, unprecedented. And they have a very short distance to go. The pleasure of seeing the finish. And we don't know yet, but it appears that they are indeed going to do what Johnny Walker proposed earlier and finish all as one.
This is where free riding and also hard enduro came from, is guys going out and saying, can you climb this? Can you go down this hill? Can you get over this log? And it's all about riding, being on a motorcycle and hanging out with your buddies. And right now you're seeing 4 of the world's best band together to conquer the Iron Giant.
Well, you mentioned the founder of this event and the organizer, Karl. His goal, his philosophy is to make it so tough that out of 500 starters, only one rider can finish. I bet you he never thought that he would get 4 winners at once.
Yeah, because he knows what he's dealing with. Karl's a rider himself, so he knows that he's dealing with a bunch of egotistical riders that probably wouldn't work together, but now it backfired on him. These guys came together, and now they're conquering.
A short trials-like section to finish the 2015 Hare Scramble here in Austria. And it is going to finish in the most extraordinary way. These guys race each other so fiercely. They compete all over the world every year against each other. Now they are going to finish together as one. This is an incredible story.
Johnny Walker, Gomez, Jarvis, Lettenbichler, unbelievable to see these guys work together. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think I'd make it to the finish. Watching what these guys have to do, climbing over the logs back and forth. After what they've been through, now they have to get over this to just get to the finish line.
2 of the 4 have won before. That's Jarvis and Johnny Walker. For Alfredo Gomez and Andreas Lettenbichler, it will be their maiden victories at Hare Scramble.
An interesting point is Lettenbichler is probably one of the oldest riders and Gomez is one of the youngest riders. So you put them with the 2 current kings of Erzberg. That's a great story.
Think of everybody waiting at the finish arch and who they thought they might see. They would have never expected or predicted to see 4 victors at the Red Bull finish.
And the man handing out the 4 checkered flags is Karl, the designer of this unbelievable course.
Time now for our Red Bull signature moment. The Iron Giant is the most daunting task at trying to tame it. The day started with 500 competitors, each for themselves. But that wasn't the theme today, because it wasn't an individual effort. Today, and Hare Scramble 2015 was all about helping each other and a group effort. And that was highlighted in the most profound way with the lead group. Fighting for outright and overall honors turned in to a display of teamwork, camaraderie, and mateship. At a mysterious and surprise section of the course known as Downtown will be known as the Group Workshop. For the first time, in an unprecedented fashion, the Red Bull signature moment goes to all 4 winners. So it's official, all 4 riders have been declared winners, and Tina's with them.
Well, Hare Scramble, anything can happen as we saw today. Graham, but you headed into that downtown tough section first. Walk us through the race leading up to that.
Yeah, it was a really good race up to then. We could all see each other, myself, Johnny and Alfredo. We were all riding pretty close, so it was a good battle, and I think we were all feeling pretty tired. But then when we got to that point, I was pushed for about 10 minutes and then looked round, Alfredo was there, and realised there was nothing we could do by ourselves, so just had to team up and get up any way we could.
Well, Alfredo, today the unexpected happened at Hare Scramble, and there's 4 winners. You know, I came to this race and everyone was saying this course was the hardest it's ever been. How would you describe it?
Yeah, for me also, I have a really bad start, and after that I try to overtake everyone, and just push. When I arrived at Karl's diner, I was 3rd, so really good. We arrived at that river. It was impossible to go up, and we need some ropes and help each other to pull up the bikes.
Well, Letty, you ended up on the podium before here at Hare Scramble, but today it was all about a bin. What else was it about for you today?
Yeah, you know, I feel like amazing. We fought together on the podium, first place, and yeah, it's unbelievable, you know. We help us to get each other and push the bikes and come together to the finish. It's amazing, you know.
Yeah. Congrats on finishing up on the podium on top of it with these guys. And Johnny, you're ending up on top of the podium again, but with 3 other guys. You know, I saw you earlier and you were charging out in the lead, and then I saw you in downtown actually pulling some of the other riders up. What does this win mean to you?
Yeah, it was good. I made a good start and I was pushing hard, and I got to this place and they were like 10 meters further up. I don't know how long they were there for. And, you know, I just got off and we were all just having a little mothers meeting in there. We sat there, talked for a little bit, and then decided to pull each other up.
Well, it was all about teamwork at the finish, guys. Congratulations. Back to you.
Lee, at the finish of a race like this, I can only compare it to something like the Baja 1000. You push yourself through so much pain and agony, and it's all over in a blink of an eye.
It was a grueling but rewarding day as well for our feature rider, Ryan Larue. He's with Tina.
Ryan, you know, this mountain threw challenges at everyone, including the 4 guys that ended up winning this race. What were the biggest challenges it threw at you?
Probably every part of the course. The start was probably one of the roughest starts in Erzberg history for anybody that I had. I probably had 3 or 4 crashes in the first 3 or 4 minutes, and actually got buried in a mud hole. That honestly, the course this year compared to what I did last year was, I thought it was a lot more physically and mentally demanding, so very difficult.
Well, congratulations. You went farther than you did last year, correct?
Yeah, last year I got to the machine and I think there was like 76 people on it. I never even had a crack at it, and this year I got there and there was next to nobody on it, and it was a chew to get up, but I did get to the machine, or past the machine, and I think I made it to checkpoint 11 before it bottlenecked and nobody else was going through. So
making it farther than you did last year. A lot of challenges were here at Hare Scramble. Guys, I'll send it back to you.
Tina, thank you, and a great effort from Ryan Larue. 500 started, only 5 finished, and Mario Roman Serrano should be proud of that. Ricky, normally at this stage I ask you for your final thoughts. It's pretty easy to know what it'll be.
Yeah, it's all about brotherhood and about riding. It's great when you get guys on motorcycles together, and for this to crown 4 champions of the Iron Giant is awesome.
Has never happened in the history of this event. The legends who have come and gone, and those being victorious, will look upon the 2015 Hare Scramble as one to remember for the extraordinary nature of it. For now, let's send it back to Sal Masekela. Sal?
Thank you, Lee, and thanks to all of you for joining us at 2015 Hare Scramble. The Iron Giant in his history has left so many battered, bruised, and broken across its rocky slopes, and today that continued, as it took 4 men working together to actually conquer this, the most punishing race in dirt biking. Congratulations to our 4 winners, Alfredo Gomez, Johnny Walker, Graham Jarvis, and Andreas Lettenbichler, finally bringing home the rock here at Hare Scramble. Once again, thank you for hanging out with us today. I will see you next time.